what's funny about the smart home world? We love giving things confusing names. Zigbee, Z-Wave, MQTT, fine. Those are weird enough on their own, but then someone decided to name two of the most important technologies in the entire smart home world, Thread and Matter. Two completely normal, everyday English words that now mean something totally different, depending on whether you're a smart home user or just a normal person. Does it matter? Well, yeah, literally. Have you lost the thread? Dude, I lost the thread years ago. And to make things worse, people talk about Thread and Matter together so often that most people often assume that they're the same thing. Even I used to think that. They're not though. They're not even close to the same thing. And understanding why they are different is probably the single most useful thing you can learn about where your smart home is heading. But what the heck are Thread and Matter? Welcome to Foxy's Lab. I'm Foxy, and in this series I explain complex smart home, IoT and homelab concepts in a way that makes sense. In this episode we're untangling the thread and getting to the heart of the matter. These two technologies are deeply connected but do completely different jobs. If you've watched my Zigbee video, you've already got a head start, because Thread is built on some of the same foundations. If you haven't watched it, don't worry, I'll catch you up, but do go and watch it afterwards because it's brilliant and I work really hard on it. So go grab a coffee, I'll get one too, and then we'll get into it. Let's get the big distinction out of the way immediately because everything else in this video builds on it. Thread is a networking protocol. It handles the wireless connections between your smart home devices. Think of Thread as a phone network. It's the signal, the towers, the infrastructure that lets devices talk to each other. Thread doesn't care what the devices are saying, it just makes sure the message gets from A to B. Matter is an application layer standard. It defines the shared language that the devices speak once they're connected. When your phone app says, turn this light on, and the light understands what that means, that's Matter doing the translating. Matter doesn't care how the message travels, it just makes sure that both sides understand each other. You need both. A phone network without a shared language is useless. You might be able to connect the call, but if nobody can understand each other, nothing's going to get done. And a shared language without a network to carry it is just words floating in the air with nowhere to go. Is there anyone alive out there? Thread is the network, Matter is the language. Two separate things that happen to work brilliantly together. They've been put front and centre of a shared goal to unify the smart home world, which is why everybody lumps them into one conversation. From this point on, whenever things start getting complicated, come back to that analogy as it should help you to untangle them. Okay, not Thread. This is going to get confusing. Okay. Thread's the phone network, Matter's the shared language. That'll keep you grounded. You're going to need that, and probably more coffee. You'll hear people say Matter over Thread, and it sounds complicated, but it's not. It just means the device is using Thread for its wireless connection and Matter for its application logic. The Thread network carries the message, and Matter is the language written in the message. Phone network, shared language. But Matter doesn't need Thread. It can also run over Wi-Fi or Ethernet. A Matter smart plug connected to your Wi-Fi is still speaking Matter, it's just using a different network to carry the conversation. And a Matter light on Thread behaves identically to a Matter light on Wi-Fi from your controller's perspective. Same language, different delivery method. The reason a device would choose Thread over Wi-Fi comes down to power consumption. Thread sips electricity the same way that Zigbee does. A Thread sensor can run on a coin cell battery for years. Try out with Wi-Fi and you'll be changing batteries every few weeks.
Okay, and that's if you're lucky.
Thread is for the small, low power stuff like sensors, switches and buttons.
Oh my!
Wi-Fi is for the hungrier devices like cameras and speakers that need more bandwidth and are plugged into the wall anyway. Here's a quick history. Actually, you're getting a 2 for the price of 1 deal this week as Thread and Matter have separate origin stories. So let's take them one at a time. Thread came first. The Thread Group was formally launched in July 2014 by 7 companies, and the driving force behind it was Nest Labs. Google had just bought Nest for $3.2 billion earlier that year, so there was serious money behind this from day one. The other founding members were ARM, Samsung, Silicon Labs, Freescale Semiconductor, which later merged with NXP, Yale Security, and a company with possibly the best name in corporate history, Big Ass Fans. They make industrial ceiling fans, massive ones, and yeah, that is their actual name. I want to shake the hand of whoever signed off on that, unless it's Elon Musk. He can kiss my big ass. The first president of the Thread Group was Chris Boros from Nest. He steered it through the early days before leaving in 2016 to join Eero, and the whole idea behind Thread was that Zigbee had proved low-power mesh networking worked for smart homes, but it had a fundamental limitation. Zigbee devices don't speak IP. They use their own proprietary networking, which means they need a translator to talk to your home network. Thread said, what if we kept the same low power radio, but made every single device an IP citizen? Every Thread device gets its own IPv6 address. No translation needed. At least that was the big idea. Thread 1 came out in 2015, and Google open sourced the implementation as OpenThread. Almost every Thread border router on the market today is built on OpenThread. Matter's story starts a few years later and involves even bigger names. In December 2019, Amazon, Apple, Google, and the Zigbee Alliance announced a joint project called CHIP, which stood for Connected Home over IP. The picture was simple but ambitious. The smart home world was a mess. A Zigbee device wouldn't talk to a Wi-Fi device. An Apple HomeKit product wouldn't work with a Google Home. An Amazon Echo product was its own little island.
We don't trust each other and we don't like each other.
Every platform had its own app, its own hub, its own setup process. Normal people were confused, frustrated, and giving up. I'm sure many of you can relate to this, as whilst the problem is in the midst of being solved, it ain't solved yet. CHIP was supposed to fix all of that by creating a single standard that every platform could agree on. One language for every smart home device, regardless of who made it or which ecosystem you prefer.
One ring to rule them all.
In May 2021, CHIP was renamed to Matter, and the Zigbee Alliance rebranded to the Connectivity Standards Alliance, or CSA. If you watch the Zigbee video, you'll remember the CSA because they're also the people behind Zigbee. Same organisation building the next generation. That's not a coincidence. Matter 1 shipped in October 2022. We're now up to Matter 1.5, which landed in November 2025 and finally added camera support. It's been a long road and it's still not finished, but the fact that Apple, Amazon, Google and Samsung all agreed on anything is a minor miracle, so I'll take it. If you've ever read a Thread or Matter product description and felt like you needed a little lie down afterwards, you're not alone. These technologies come with a lot of vocabulary, so let me walk you through the important bits. If you watch the Zigbee video, you already know what a mesh network is. Thread uses one too. Devices relay messages to the neighbours. The network self-heals if a device drops out, and the more mains-powered devices you add, the stronger it gets. Exactly the same concept here. The key difference with Thread's mesh is it's all running on IPv6. Every device in the mesh has an IP address, which means the mesh can talk directly to your home network without needing a translation layer in the middle. In a Zigbee network, you have a coordinator, one device that creates and manages the entire network. If it dies, things get ugly. Thread doesn't work that way. Instead, Thread has a border router. A border router bridges the Thread mesh to your home IP network. It's basically the gateway between the low-power Thread world and your regular Wi-Fi and Ethernet world. It's literally the border. But the important bit is that you can have multiple border routers, and if one goes down, the others pick up the slack. So you don't have to have a single point of failure. You might even already have a Thread border router in your house and not know it. The Apple TV 4K, the HomePod Mini, the Google Nest Hub, the Amazon Echo from the 4th generation onwards, and IKEA's Dirigira Hub all act as Thread border routers. If any of those are sitting in your house right now, congratulations, you've got a Thread network and you didn't even have to try. Thread also has a leader, which is a device in the mesh that manages the router set, but unlike Zigbee's coordinator, the leader's role isn't fixed. It's automatically elected and can easily migrate to a different device if needed. Nobody has to think about it, the network just handles it for you. For battery-powered devices, Thread has something called a sleepy end device. These keep their radios switched off most of the time, waking up periodically to check for messages and then going back to sleep. Same idea as Zigbee end devices, but with the IPv6 addressing on top. That's how Thread sensors achieve those multi-year battery life claims. On the Matter side, you've got the Matter controller. This is the brain that manages your Matter devices. It sends commands, receives state updates, and runs your automations. Apple Home running on a HomePod or an Apple TV, Google Home on a Nest Hub, Amazon Echo and of course Home Assistant can all act as Matter controllers. Then there's the concept of a fabric, which you think would be a Thread term, but no. In Matter, a fabric is a security domain. Devices in the same fabric share the same security certificates and can communicate securely. Every controller creates its own fabric, so if you add a light to Apple Home, that light is on Apple's fabric. If you also add it to Google Home, it's now on Google's fabric too, which brings us to the next term. Multi-admin is one of Matter's headline features. It means a single device can be controlled by multiple ecosystems at the same time. One light bulb controlled by Apple Home, Google Home, and Home Assistant simultaneously. Each ecosystem is a separate fabric, and Matter devices are supposed to support at least 5 of them. On paper, this is fantastic. In practice, well, we'll get to that in the gotchas. Last one, a Matter bridge is a device that translates non-Matter devices into the Matter world. If you've got a bunch of Zigbee lights on a Philips Hue bridge, that bridge can expose them as Matter devices. Your Zigbee lights suddenly appear in Apple Home or Google Home without needing to be replaced. Home Assistant can do this too with the Matter Bridge add-on, which is incredibly useful if you've got a mixed setup and you want to bring everything under one roof. Nobody has to rip out and replace anything. Gotta be honest here, I'm newer to Thread and Matter than I am to Zigbee. My Zigbee setup has been running for many years now and it's solid. Thread and Matter are new additions, and I'm still working out how they fit into everything. My coordinator is the catchily named SM Lite SLCB MR2, which supports both Zigbee and Thread from a single device. So I've got about 20 devices running through ZHA, and I can also run Thread from the same hardware. Home Assistant is my controller for all of it. The IKEA side of things is where Thread and Matter have become the most real for me. IKEA recently launched a bunch of new products, all running Matter over Thread. These sit alongside my existing IKEA Zigbee stuff, and the Dira hub used to tie it all together because it worked as a Thread border router, a Matter controller, and a Zigbee to Matter bridge all at once. It's actually a clever bit of kit for the price. It wasn't really good enough for my needs, so I eventually replaced it with the SM Lite. Fun little Foxy fact, whilst I played with Thread before, I've never really put any stock into it until lately. If you watched my IKEA video, then you actually witnessed me pairing my first Thread device that I actually kept in circulation. It's the door sensor that controls the pantry lights, and it's amazing. I've also got an Apple TV 4K and a few HomePod minis, all of which are Thread border routers. I've had them for years, and they've been running Thread border router duties in the background this whole time without me ever really thinking about it. It wasn't really until IKEA chose to go all in on Thread that I really decided that it was time to give Thread a chance. And I wanted something that felt more purpose-made than potentially tacked on. So I went for the SM Lite as my border router. I'm not saying that the Apple gear isn't good enough. It might be fine, but it's also not a PoE-powered antenna that looks like the PKE meter from Ghostbusters, so where's the fun in that? For me, the big draw of Matter and the Thread is the same thing that drew me to Zigbee in the first place. Local control. Matter-certified devices are designed to work locally. Core control, on, off, dimming, temperature, all of that happens on your local network without touching the internet. Thread networks are inherently local as well. The mesh operates entirely within your home. Combine that with Home Assistant as your controller, and you've got a fully local smart home. Thread mesh, Matter language, Home Assistant brain. No cloud required. No companies with any access to my data.
I love this plan. I'm excited to be a part of it.
Now there are caveats. Remote access, controlling things when you're away from home, still typically goes through the manufacturer's cloud. Firmware updates still need the internet, and some manufacturers add cloud-dependent features on top of Matter's local base. But for the core, I'm in my house and I want my lights to work use case, it is truly local. And for this channel, that matters, pun intended. Every technology promises to make your life easier, and somehow every technology finds new and creative ways to complicate it instead. Thread and Matter are no exception. Let's pull on some threads and see where things start to fray. Okay, enough with the puns, I get it. When Home Assistant added Matter support, I remember thinking, well, I don't have any Matter hardware, so how does that work? The answer is that Matter runs over Wi-Fi too. Home Assistant didn't need any new hardware because it was talking to Matter devices over your existing Wi-Fi network. Thread is just one transport option, it's not a requirement. Remember, Thread is the phone network and Matter is the language. You can still speak the same language over a different network entirely. And it works the other way around too. A device can be a Thread border router without being a Matter controller. My SM Lite device is a Thread border router. It routes Thread traffic onto my home network, but it doesn't understand Matter commands at all. It's infrastructure, it's not brains. It's a phone mast. It carries the calls. It doesn't understand what anybody's actually saying.
Ghostbusters, what do you want?
Once you get your head around the fact that Matter and Thread are completely independent things that happen to work well together, a lot of the confusion around product descriptions and compatibility starts to make sense. Let me just clear something up though, as it still might not be properly clear yet. Matter is not Thread, and Thread is not Matter. If you have a Matter device that you are trying to connect to Home Assistant, and that Matter device is a Thread-based Matter device, you will need a Thread border router. You can't use Matter over Wi-Fi for a Thread-based gizmo, and you can't use Matter over Thread on a Wi-Fi one. Oh, the pairing process. Matter uses QR codes or 11-digit setup codes for commissioning new devices. Scan the code, the device joins your network, done. That's the theory anyway. In practice, you need Bluetooth enabled on your phone for the initial handshake. Your phone needs to be on the same network as your controller. Thread devices obviously need a border router on the network, and if the device's firmware is outdated, the QR code just might get rejected anyway. To make matters worse, these codes are physical. They're either stuck on the device or they're in the manual. That means they can wear off or get lost. Also, I've had my IKEA devices for less than 3 months, and I already have no idea which manuals belong to which device. And that's ignoring the ones I absent-mindedly threw away. The QR code system is so stupid. Every controller app has its own pairing flow as well. Apple Home does it one way, Google Home does it another. Home Assistant's companion app has its own approach. None of them are terrible, but none of them are as simple as Zigbee's put both ends in pairing mode and you're done approach either. Feels like we traded one set of pairing annoyances for a different set of pairing annoyances, except now you also need a camera.
Okay, just calm down.
Multi-admin sounds amazing until you actually try to use it. The idea is that your devices can be controlled by multiple ecosystems simultaneously.
I have 8 different bosses right now.
One light in Apple Home and Google Home and Home Assistant. Lovely. Except each ecosystem pulls the device independently, which means more wake-ups for battery devices and shorter battery life. Opening a commissioning window from one controller to let another controller in is not always obvious, and some devices lose features or show reduced functionality on secondary fabrics. A device that works perfectly in Google Home might only show basic controls in Apple Home. The spec says it should work. Reality says, yeah, mostly, with asterisks.
Where's the motivation?
Seriously, whilst researching this video, I read a lot of documentation about this, and the only thing I actually learned was that I never, ever want to attempt multi-admin control. I'll just stick with Home Assistant running a lot, thank you very much. Thread network fragmentation is one thing that frustrates a lot of early adopters and was the main thing that put me off it when it first came out. Before Thread 1.4 came out in 2024, every brand's border router created its own separate thread network. If you had an Apple HomePod and a Google Nest Hub in the same house, they were running two completely different thread meshes. Devices had to pick one or the other. It was a mess, and it totally defeated the point of all of it.
Pretty sure it doesn't work that way.
Thread 1.4 fixed this on paper with something called credential sharing, where border routers join the existing network instead of creating a new one. A single unified mesh, no fragmentation. The problem is that a lot of existing border routers are still running Thread 1.3, and firmware updates are rolling out slowly. Very slowly. So in a lot of homes, the fragmentation problem is still very much alive and kicking. Any new border router certified after January 2026 has to support Thread 1.4, which is progress, but if your existing hardware hasn't been updated yet, you're still living with the old behaviour. Firmware updates in general are a bit of a sore point. Matter devices sometimes need updates for bug fixes or new features, and the update process varies wildly between manufacturers. Some devices insist on using the manufacturer's own app for firmware updates, even if you control the device through Home Assistant or Apple Home. So you end up needing 3 or 4 apps installed just to keep your devices current, which somewhat defeats the purpose of a unified standard. Are you starting to see the pattern here, or should I say thread? No, I shouldn't. Thread makes the same promises Zigbee does about multi-year battery life for sensors and buttons, and for well-designed devices, it delivers. But the reality is more nuanced than the marketing suggests it is. Thread's IPv6 stack and security features can consume slightly more power than Zigbee's simpler setup in some implementations. More importantly, if you're using multi-admin and you've got, say, 3 ecosystems all polling the same battery sensor, those wake-ups add up. Your 2-year battery might become a 1-year battery. It depends on the device, the manufacturer, and how many controllers are talking to it at once. Enough with what can go wrong. Let's get you some practical advice for getting started without pulling your hair out. Before you buy anything new, check what you've already got. A lot of common smart home devices pull double duty as both Thread border routers and Matter controllers. The Apple TV 4K and the HomePod Mini do both. The Google Nest Hub does both. The Amazon Echo from Gen 4 onwards does both. IKEA's Dirigera Hub does both, and acts as a Zigbee bridge on top. If any of those are already in your house, you've got the foundation for a Thread and Matter setup without spending a penny.
The best things in life are free.
Make sure your smart home controller actually supports Thread and Matter. If you're running Home Assistant, you're in really good shape. Home Assistant received official Matter certification from the CSA in March 2025, making it the first open source project to achieve that. With the right hardware like the SM Lite adapter I mentioned earlier or the Home Assistant Connect ZBT2, it can also act as a Thread border router. If you're using Apple Home, Google Home or Amazon Echo as your controller, they all support Matter too, though the range of supported device types can vary between them. Don't actually panic about Thread 1.3 versus Thread 1.4. If you've already got Thread 1.3 border routers, they'll still work fine. Your devices will connect and function. You just might have separate Thread networks per vendor until the vendor updates roll out. It's annoying, but it's not a deal breaker. As new hardware arrives with 1.4 support, the fragmentation will sort itself out over time. If you find it too confusing, then the simple solution is to just pick one ecosystem and stick with it. The other Thread networks will just tick along in the background doing absolutely nothing. If you want an affordable way in, IKEA's kind of hard to beat. Their new bulbs and sensors run Matter over Thread, and if you've already got a Dirigera hub from your Zigbee setup, it's been updated to handle Thread and Matter as well. Their previous hub remains Zigbee only, unfortunately, so you will need to upgrade if you've got that one. I recently did a video about the new IKEA range, which was well worth a watch if I do say so myself. If you care about local control, and if you're watching this channel, I'm imagining you do, the dream stack is Thread for your mesh, Matter for your device language, and Home Assistant for your controller. Everything runs locally, no cloud dependency for core operation. Your lights will continue to work during an internet outage, unless that's caused by a power cut. You can't really do much about that. Your sensors can report their status without phoning home to a server in another country. That's the setup I'm building, and it's the one I'd recommend if local control is important to you. So that's the way to matter. Thread is the phone network, Matter's the shared language. You need both. They work best together and they're not going anywhere. It's still early days, the pairing process could be slicker, multi-admin definitely needs work, and Thread 1.4 adoption is taking its sweet time. But the foundations are solid. The right companies are backing it, and unlike a lot of smart home standards we've seen over the years, this one has a genuine shot at sticking around. As for what I'd recommend for people starting out today, frankly, I'm still sticking with Zigbee at the moment. There's a much wider range of devices and they're usually cheaper. Having said that, Thread is now part of my lab and it's here to stay. So if you can afford to, my actual advice is to run both, and then you have the widest variety of choices. If you do pick one side and then that side loses the protocol wars, you still won't suffer. You may not be able to find newer devices with that protocol anymore, but your existing ones will continue to work just fine. That's the great thing about open and local standards. It's all under your control, and that's all that matters. Oh, come on, that one was right there. What the Heck is an ongoing series where I explain the ins and outs of tech. If you want to be notified when the next episode drops, hit the bell and YouTube will make sure you're kept in the loop. If you haven't seen my What the Heck is Zigbee video yet, I'd really recommend watching it after this one. The companion pieces and a lot of what I covered today builds on what's in that video. I'll put a link right here. If you want to know more about the protocol wars, I've got a full video about that very subject coming soon, so don't forget to subscribe and hit the notifications so you don't miss it. Come join the Foxy's Lab Discord server if you fancy a chat. And remember, regardless of the side you chose, at least you didn't choose Z-Wave.
That's gotta hurt, Gene!
Ta-ra.